Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, and we are listening again to Richard Maddock, The Garden Within. Oh, I'm so happy that you're here with me this morning. I have a new cup I bought in Sydney, at the Sydney Fringe, and yeah, it's very interesting. I love me some art, especially on a cup. I love coffee cup. Coffee cups are like, I don't know, strange. I have this kind of interesting relationship with those. Anyhow, let me turn it down. I'm gonna talk a little bit about spirituality and the search of spirituality, since you're here with me this morning. Or what does it mean? I'll tell you a little bit about my my journey. How can you say my journey? I'm gonna turn this music off, sorry. Oops. Oopsie daisy, oops, 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 oops. Getting my stuff going. Yeah, so this is The Garden Within with Richard Maddock, and you're here with me this morning. I have a, I'm off this week, but I'm never really off because I have things to do. Anyway, you're here with me this morning, and I thought I would talk about spirituality. I was talking with a good friend of mine yesterday, with Marissa. And we were talking about like your journey and yourself. When you first start to realize that you are maybe, that something is missing in your life. So like, doesn't matter what you do, what you do in your life to achieve anything, that sometimes, somehow, somewhere, there's a feeling of something missing, some kind of link or something like that. Or that's my experience, especially if you're aware. Okay, so like my journey of spirituality is a very interesting one. I'm a little, I grew up, as a little boy, I grew up in the South, in Alabama, and I was raised Southern Baptist, so give or take, you know, off and on. So religion was in and out of my life, but like, you know, I just followed what everyone told me to do. So that's the beginning of my, maybe some kind of faith or something like that. So, and as I start to say this, I'm really grateful for everything because it all taught me what I didn't really want. But as I was little and I started to, you know, go to church and everything, and that was like the beginning of some kind of faith or believing in, you know, a God. But it was kind of like, in a way, to me, like it was a fabricated God. But I was really young and I was like, oh, there's something, you know, that's watching over us, and then so it started introducing me to this condition of like, you have to be good because God watches over all this stuff. So that was the beginning of my faith. I'm not going to get into all that because that's really conditioning and a programming, but anyway, I've come through all of that. That's the beginning of a spiritual journey for me. So beyond that, you know, I left home when I was 16, and I stopped going to church a little bit more, a couple years maybe before that, because I don't know, I just vaguely remember that I'm not sure if the church was really into my dancing, or at least that's how I felt, or I kind of remember that. Maybe I remembered it for a reason that, I don't know, I always a little bit felt out like an outcast or something. So I started dancing, and I loved to dance, obviously, and so I left home, and now here I was with all this kind of it's kind of like, you know, good or bad, or, you know, like a God is watching over me. I don't necessarily really believe it ever really resonated with me somehow, but I just did everything that everybody wanted me to do, so I just started with that. So my search of, first it starts, you know, it's like you realize that you suffer in some way. So like this, you know, I started becoming interested in self-help. So I devoured everything written about self-help, and I was so interested in my own development, I should say, and I started to go through this. So I started to look at different paths, and I think that maybe the first like liberating thing that I came across, which a lot of people do, is Buddhism. I traveled a lot, and I worked in Japan, and I performed there, and I had been there so many times, but I remember going to, being in the hotel, and you know, like in a lot of hotels in America, or used to be, I don't know, like in traveling around, like in hotels were like the Holy Bible. So it was always in the room kind of thing. Yeah, if that's like, I don't know, you can read it or not read it, but I remember that being there. So when I got to Japan, there was the book about Buddhism in the hotel, and I even think that I even stole it because I didn't know where I was going to get it, or I think I even took it from the room. Oh, bad boy, bad boy. See, that's what my mind says. But I took it because I was so fascinated by this different approach, this Eastern approach to ourselves, and you know, and then I got interested in the Buddha and Buddhism, and I felt it resonate much more with me because it's not an organized religion. It's more or less like a way of life, I guess you would say. So that was the first thing that I started to figure out about myself, and it resonated with me. So I kind of like dabbed a little bit into it, and I don't know, I felt more open, more free, and more like it resonated, and that was a way of life for me to start with, kind of thing. I don't know. And then so the journey, and also around that time, you know, like having faith, you know, I didn't really feel like it was necessarily like to go to church anymore, to, you know, or to continue that after I left home. So I was really open to different ways and all this stuff. So I started a little with Buddhism, and but I wasn't a Buddhist or anything. It just kind of resonated with me. I read about it, and then I don't know, I just remember being fascinated by that, and you know, and I remember reading the book The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama, and all of these other books, and Conversations with God, and wow, and that book, when I found out that that book was channeled, so I found out all about these channels, you know, like, then I came across like later on in my life, a little bit later on, I read The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, which is an amazing, amazing book. And I read that, and also, so, you know, I guess over time I started to kind of develop my own way of looking at life, like my own way, like, because I felt strong in that, or I felt like I could just pick from each thing. And so I read so much about ways of life and different ways of looking at life in a way, and and all of this search was going on within myself, and at the same time I was very free, and I enjoyed my life. You know, I partied and went out and drank and everything, and I think that was also a way to not escape, but kind of get in touch with myself in a different way, if you understand what I mean. I don't know, it was like connect, and so all of this started helping. And so anyway, when I started to become really more serious about the spiritual search, I went into, like, you know, if you go into bookstores at the time when I was really young, there was no internet and stuff. And so, like, you know, we had to buy like physical books. And in order for me to do that, I think after I read the Conversations with God or The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, like these books, and then the Celestine Prophecy, these books were like, they opened up a whole nother way of me thinking. And when I went to these bookstores, I realized I was like so overwhelmed because there were so many different paths, and that's what my friend Marissa and I were talking about yesterday. There were so many different paths, and I was like, oh my God, this is like the abundance of information and knowledge that is in this room in these books is something undeniable. And I was like, oh. And then I got a little overwhelmed because there were so many. Like, in which one do I choose? Like, how do I go? So I figured I would just give it up and just, how can you say, just read as much as I could by many things and see what resonated with me. And I even came across A Course in Miracles, and that book was also channeled. So all these channeling things, I'm mentioning all these books because if it resonates with you, or if you know any of these books, like the channeling books, like the Seth material by Jane Roberts and Robert Butts, was a phenomenon for me. And especially, I came across Abraham Hicks first, and then, and it just resonated with me, and it felt like the truth. It felt like the truth. I had a knowing of something. And all of these pointed in a very, very, how can you say, it pointed at something that I thought that link, whatever I was missing, was being maybe answered in a way. So, again, to make a long story short, like, I realize that there's so many different paths, and then when you come across, when you're so aware, you come across that you start learning about consciousness. And what is consciousness? And consciousness is like, is like the source. And it is true that inside this is in consciousness is a huge thing, and it includes so much that, that's what I believe that I am here for, is to find my own way. Because when this thing starts to recognize itself, it's like a magnet. It starts attracting things to you. So all these books were attracting to me, so I needed that book to get to this book, and that book to get to this book. But that spiritual search became something else for me, because there was still, even if I followed something, if I did yoga, or if I did, which I just did a little bit, but I did take yoga, and I did start going into that. I started to meditate. I've done like meditation courses, transcendental meditation. I've actually done one here, and I have my own mantra. And so like the spiritual search, or that search, like I needed to go through that. And I even read like books like quantum physics, like physics books, and because it's really about the study of matter, and when I realized that, like, they were proving that when you look at an object, like at subatomic levels, there's nothing there. And so like the observer, which is ourselves, need to look at the object for it to be there. And this is proven. So is that God? That's a source also too. So that reignited my faith in something. So I always felt that there is something, like, there is, however you want to call it, God's source. But all this spiritual search was, very interesting, because, do you like my camera? Do you like my spot this morning? There's my girl. Look at my girl. That's my girl. She's so sweet. Hi, darling. This is China, and China is the most lovely thing in the world, except for my boyfriend. Anyway, I got off. The spiritual search, whatever you're seeking, like, a truth is only something you keep thinking. And when you keep thinking it becomes your reality. So it's like, it is like what I really realized that. And maybe that, I know for a fact for myself, that's what's missing. That's what was missing. That everything is appearing as everything, but then there's nothing. This will sound a little bit strange to people who are not yet on their own spiritual path, but it's like everything's inclusive and nothing. There's everything and nothing at the same time. There's the yin and the yang, the dark and they're non-dualist. Like, I just went into like non-dualism also too. I started, which is Buddhism, basically, non-dualistic teachings, and I started to like also read about that. I know that I'm jumping around because all of this stuff started, it has really affected me. And then I realized that there's, in all of this seeking that I would do, and if I would do so much meditation, and then once it became like a chore, like it felt like it as a chore, and then I had to do something. And I really believe that there's nothing lost here. Like, there's nothing lost, and there's nothing that I realized that on the day that I realized that I don't come from lack, that I can relate to these illusory thoughts that I have, and I can change. I can change the value I give to them, especially if there were suffering or even happiness, or even at the point of where ego, like, that's the whole thing about spiritual search, is that, then you can start feeling good in your spiritual search, and then it's like almost, if you're not aware, it's like the ego can start to say, hey, look at me and look how great I am in this spiritual way of life, and I have a lot to teach you. So therefore, hence, there are like gurus that people follow. That guru has absolutely nothing to give to you. And if they try to make you do this and this and this and this and this for you to feel that something that is absent from you, and that you worship that person because they've got something that you don't have, I realized that, you know, like, I've never ever felt as though I needed a guru, like a Jesus Christ, you know, that Jesus Christ would answer everything. You know, I didn't even believe, my religion was so strong that I didn't even believe that Jesus was like walking on the planet, because he was so godlike, you know, everything. So that was my, you know, but now I'm fascinated by the stories of Jesus and what he was basically trying to say, which all of these religions all come together and pointing towards the same thing. But anyhow, all of that is just like, we are in a new paradigm. Is the light changing here? It's okay, the light, you get light here. Oh, it doesn't matter, I don't have to. It's okay, you can be with, there's something. Okay, let there be light. So, you know, like, when you start looking at it, the spiritual search is absolutely, stop seeking, because nothing will ever give you have not lost anything. And you do not come from a place of lack. And the spiritual search can be a trap. It is a trap, but it is like a pathway of getting there. And it's the road less traveled for sure. But it's like because, you know, a lot of people like to be conformed, don't even realize they're conforming. So this spiritual search is also a sense of way of conforming for me. And I realized that the power of my intention and the power of my desire that answers everything that I desire in my life is the source, and perhaps is what the spiritual teachings, spirituals, not the organized things, are pointing towards. You know, the organized ways gets in the way and says this and this, right and wrong, and all of those kind of things. And you start to create your morals, and you have these morals, and you're supposed to follow these rules and all these things. That didn't make any sense to me. But anyway, so the search is over. The search is over in that way, and I am making my own choices and implied decisions for myself, you know, and all of us are completely different, and all of it it's like, if, you know, I believe that people who believe in faith in God and Allah, or any kind of perhaps organized religion, or any teachings or anything, it is their prerogative to choose how they want to live, because we all maybe want to have faith. There's agnostic, there is atheist that don't believe in a God. But for me, it's like, I believe in a source, and I believe in a source, and the source is everything, and I can make it what I want it to be, and it's just like I can make myself what I want myself to be. And so that's why I'm weeding out all of this ego stuff, and I start to just let go more and more of all of that drama and that human drama. And it doesn't make any sense to me. It absolutely doesn't make any sense to me to hold on to any kind of belief system or anything like that. I allow and let go. So this consciousness is a very big thing. So there are many different avenues, and if you get overwhelmed, they are so great, and you can have mystical experiences and magical experiences with any path that you choose. Most likely, you just gotta know it resonates. It's like crystals. Like, for instance, crystals never resonated with me, and I thought maybe something was wrong with me and I'm not getting this thing. And, you know, and I read about it and I try it, and it just wasn't. Channeling people, people who channel, like, or who are in a clairvoyant or those kind of things, that is really something that resonates with me very much, because I relate to my own consciousness, my own, like, path and way. So there is not one way, and there is not the answer. The answer is right there inside of you, and you have to do nothing, absolutely nothing, to find that, because you're not coming from a sense of lack. And so, like, I just want to share that with you this morning. So seekers of trying to find something that's going to give you a sense of salvation, or that's going to oh, it's gotten really dark again. Just let me clear it up. It's not the search. It's right there inside of you, and it's pure, and it's beautiful, and it's untouched, and you're amazing, just like that. And I live from that point of view, and any kind of garbage that arises in my head about that I haven't, you know, it's that you haven't found it, you're ridiculous, and stop this and all this kind of thing, has no validity, because I don't give it any power at all. So your conditioned mind is not going to be able to think about what it is. So it kind of points, for me, it has no concept. It has no concept. So it's not, words cannot express about what I'm talking about. But I can feel it. And I feel it, and it's incredibly wonderful and warm, and it encompasses me, or it covers me, and I feel very, very, very safe, I guess you'd say, if that's the word, because I trust me, and I trust my path, and my own way, and there's no judgments or labels to anybody else. But anyhow, have a great day, and just, I invite you to ponder this a little bit, if you're at all interested. So that's how my spiritual search is. And right now, I believe in my source, or in the source that is like the field of possibility. And that field of possibility is right there in front of me, and it's amazing. And I don't judge anything that I do, but I'm tired of playing the game, and the game of life in this, and I choose how I feel, and I feel good. I feel good, and I allow all these negative feelings that I have rise and fall, and I choose how I feel, and there's a constant state of happiness in myself as a choice, and I do think positive as much as I can, and I allow the negative, of course, like that. So that is my religion, I guess you could say. This has been a very long talk this morning. Thank you so much for watching me. Richard Maddock, thank you so much again for the music. And I'm listening to The Garden Within on Spotify, and you can get it there. And so thanks again for watching me. I love you all very much, and keep real, keep true, let go, allow, be yourself. The spiritual search is important, but is not, if it's giving you anything and you feel inflated, take a step back and check yourself out, I think. None of us come from lack. We all have, and we are all entitled, and we all have the enormous light shining on all of us. Have a great day, and I love you again. Thank you so much. Bye.